All right, it looks like we're live. So this is the Lava team weekly meetings. It's May 6, 2014. I'm chairing this morning. I got lucky enough to be able to remember how to start an on-air broadcast. So I'm Alan Bennett. Doesn't look like I've got video, but if you guys want to do a quick introduction, then we'll get started. So Antonio.
Hello, I'm Antonio Terceiro, Lava engineer.
Hi, I'm Arthur, Lava engineer.
Dave Piggott, the Lava Lab lead.
Neil Williams, Lava engineer.
Hello, I'm Stefan, Lava engineer.
I'm Tyler Baker, Lava tech lead.
All right. So the first demo we've got is an update on the VM group support in Lava. Antonio?
Yeah, so we just landed VM group support in Lava in master branch and also in the 14.04 release, so it's already available on validation.linaro.org and on the 14.04 Lava release for those using Lava in-house. So I'm showing here the documentation for VM groups, and there's lots of information here. So one important point about VM group support is that it reuses lots of the infrastructure for multi-node tests. So a VM group's test job is a special case of a multi-node job. So really understanding how you can use multi-node jobs is important to understand how VM groups work and how you can use it. Here we have the documented example test job. So the big difference regarding regular job submissions and multi-node job submissions is that you have the VM group entry here. So instead of asking for a device type or for a target group, you ask for a VM group. So you specify which device you want to use as a host. So here we are using the ARM board, which is the one device that we have this tested with as a host, and then you can specify as many VMs as you want and as you think the ARM can handle. So here we are requesting 2 VMs using the KVM-ARM device, a special QEMU device type with the right parameters to spawn VMs on ARM hosts. And then you see here that we are assigning roles to the devices. That's what's going to be used down when we specify what to do on each device. So you can deploy a different image to the host, one to the client, and one to the server. And then you can run tests. So in this case, you are running a Lava test shell action with no role parameters, so the same tests will run, at least the same test definition will run on the host and on the VMs. Of course, the test definition, the code inside the test definition can run different code depending on the device role. So you can already run different code on the host and on the VMs. So now there's a catch here. So in order for the VMs to finish their test runs, you need the host to be powered up. So you can't reboot the host while the VMs are running. So if you have multiple actions on the host that require a reboot, then only the first one will run, and then it will wait for the VMs to finish. And then when the VMs finish, then the host goes ahead with its own tests. So that's needed because you need the host to be up for the VMs to run. So here we have an actual job submission on validation. It's just like the example. So in this case, we are just running one VM and one host device. and then we are deploying pre-built image to the host. So, and this is a good opportunity to talk about the requirements for the host image. So the host image has to have OpenSSH server with SFTP support, so that Lava can install the VM images inside of the host file system, and also it has to have, obviously it has to have QEMU system so that you can actually run the VMs. And we have here a deploy Linaro kernel action, so we are using these images to boot the VM. So here you have the VM kernel, the VM DTB, and the VM root file system. Then we are just running some basic Lava test shell tests on both hosts and the VM, so we don't specify any roles here. Here you have the actual jobs running. So if you remove the debugging information here, yeah, it's still deploying, but we can look at some staging job. So here is that same test definition. You can see here when the host finishes booting, it will signal the VMs that they are able to start, and it will say to the VMs which IP address to use to connect via SSH. Then it will do its test, and then at this point it will wait for the VMs to finish. So this is the end of the first action that booted the test image on the host device. It will wait until the VM job finishes. So if you take out the debug information, so here it just run a test, the test definition on the VMs, and then when it finishes, it notifies the host that it's okay to reboot now, and then the host goes ahead. So yeah, and that's already deployed on validation and available on the latest Lava release. So does anybody have any question about VM groups?
I think we should probably make it clear the limitation on the number of guests is basically the limitation on how many free. So it would be free space on the test rootfs partition, because we have to copy
yes.
it onto the host. I'm finding it's about 3 on our typical Arndale setup. 4 is too much for the test rootfs partition to hold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's important to know that the VM images will be copied to the host device file system. So you have to have enough space there. In our initial tests, we thought that using SD cards for the root file system was too slow, but then Tyler found some options through the QEMU to make it better. So if maybe using really big SD cards, you can fit more than 3 VMs. So, but Lava does not impose any arbitrary restriction on that. So that all depends on your setup and on how many VMs the Arndale itself can handle. Maybe the Arndale Octa is able to handle even more devices.
Well, I was going to show in my demo. I've got 2 Chromebooks with KVMs with 32 gig SD cards, and I've got them hooked up in Lava, so they can actually run up to 6 VMs inside of it at once. But yeah, I hope we see the Arndale Octa with some hypervisor support here very shortly.
All right, with that, Tyler, do you want to kind of lead into what you're showing?
Sure. So, like Antonio was saying, I've been playing around with the QEMU options and figuring out how to enable VirtIO on all of our different drivers we need to use. So, the speed up we talked about earlier was basically instead of using the SD card emulation interface, we use VirtIO. And so I posted some of those flags that I'm using on my GitHub, and that way we can review them and see if that's something that we want to upstream. Now, I also have VirtIO networking with the bridge setup working as well. So I'll kind of go through what I've set up here. So these are KVM hosts that I have in my lab, and they run libvirt. They're running basically all on Debian testing right now. But the last two here are actually ARM KVM hosts. So the host architecture is ARM v7L. And then I've got instances, so I've got 4 guests running using libvirt on this compute node, and on the next compute node I also have 3. So what I've gone ahead and done is put together a Debian SID QCOW2 image that we can run. So and what's advantageous about that is then we can actually practice our Lava installs within these guests, which is very handy. That way we don't need real ARM hardware to do it, and it's kind of painful to do on an embedded platform. So what we take a look at now is, I just click console here. That's BNC. Let's go to my console. So what I actually have with this VM here is it's running armv7.com. So you can see here that it's actually pretty snappy. So this armv7.com is not running on real hardware anymore. It is now running completely virtualized on ARM hardware as an ARM VM. And it seems to perform fairly well. In fact, I was able to run a couple jobs on it on the Arndale device that's hooked up to it, and it seems to perform quite well. So that's neat. Now, what I've also done, since I like to share my hardware between, how it's configured with libvirt, if you go in the community, you'll see that there's a new device type called Chromebook VM, and I've got both of my Chromebooks connected as basically dummy SSH sessions. But what's neat about it is, I believe here, I've actually ran a VM groups job on the Chromebook, and it worked successfully. And what's neat about it, it doesn't take 15 minutes to run a VM groups job. Since it's a dummy SSH session, you don't have to deploy the host rootfs. It runs in about 3 minutes. So it's quite speedy. So I've been playing around with that just to kind of get a feel for what our limitations are with VM groups and how we might optimize the guests a little bit, because that's really been the pain point for VM groups, is that the guest booting was very slow. The network performance inside of the guests was very slow, so it was hard to get a feel for whether this was going to be useful to anybody since the guests were so slow. But I'm feeling now, even with all of the VMs that I'm running, the guest speeds are quite fast. So let me just show you real quick.
So there you are running the VM group jobs on a KVM on ARM. So you have 2 levels of virtualization?
No, I don't have 2. It's only 1. So I'm using the Chromebook KVM host directly over SSH as a dummy SSH slave. So
okay, right.
That's got hypervisor mode enabled, and then it's basically just copying the guest image over and then launching the QEMU command.
Okay, so I got it. So Chromebook KVM is actually a KVM host. It's not KVM itself.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
But I could try that. It could be interesting. So if we look here, this is actually inside of a guest. Now this has got bridging with VirtIO. So I find like this is where we were stumbling really badly with the guests. So I'm finding that apt is much quicker. I mean, running with VirtIO drivers as it should be, because that's basically full hardware virtualization at that point. I'm very impressed with the performance inside of the guests. What I'm about to do right now is actually post my QCOW2 Debian image. So if you guys want to play around with this in VM groups, you can use a plain Debian image. And then if you guys want, since I've got testing this out, I will spin you guys up your own ARM KVM Debian image to install Lava on and do testing. I think what we use this system for is the ability to test our master worker installations with packaging and make sure that works, so that it's easy to spin the nodes up and connect them and do the installs. Let's see, how much ARM v8 hardware is available at that end? But can you rephrase the question?
Well, I'm thinking all those tests are on v7, and I'm getting inquiries at this end because what they actually need to do is start testing the ARM v8 QEMU and building that, and then running VM groups for ARM v8. And all our testing so far is on v7. So I'm just wondering, for that kind of support you've got there, how much ARM v8 hardware is there at your end?
Well, see, I think the biggest problem we're going to find is which ARM v8 platforms have hypervisor mode supported. Right, because it's we can test QEMU out on ARM v8 platforms, but if there's no hardware virtualization, then we're just testing in emulation mode. And is that, is that really valuable? I mean, if it is, we can enable that today. But if they want to actually test hardware virtualization on ARM v8, then we need to identify which platforms will actually support that right now. I'm not sure if there are platforms out there that I've seen. So we'll have to run that down and see what happens there. But that's basically.
Okay, I'll follow that up. Yeah, I'll follow that up at this end. I'll find out exactly what they do and actually need.
Okay. So yeah, first Lava instance installed in an ARM guest.
It's fun to see all that stuff coming together.
It's cool to dog food. If we're talking about being able to use this in a data center at some point, we better be able to run Lava inside of it, and it's running quite well.
All right, I think the third demo would be Stefan's update on Job Submission Wizard.
Yep, exactly. So here it is. I'm working on the Job Submission Wizard user interface for the last couple of weeks, and so what we have is basically an extension to the Submit Job user interface, which I will demonstrate now. There are a couple of steps for populating all the relevant fields. I thought, this is still beta, so any comments and everything are welcome after the presentation. So let's go through all of these real quickly. These are basically all some of the known options and commands from the job definition files. Here we can select whether we want a pre-built linear image or the hardware pack and RFS, or the Android image where we have to enter the boot data and system URLs. So just for the sake of simplicity, we'll take this one. I will explain a bit later how the options in the next steps change depending on which type of the image we selected. So you can also add boot options, select whether you want interactive boot command options here as well. All of these will be separated from based on the new line separator and added in the definition file. Then the third step includes selecting the device type. This will, of course, be depending which user is logged in. So only the device types available for him will be displayed at this point. Test definition. So we can add a repository or the URLs at this point. If you are working with the Android image, here you can add like a test name, and then the actions for the installing and running those tests will be added to the definition file. So let's add the repository and test definition, and the last step includes the submission of the results, the RPC2 endpoint for the Lava server, and the bundle stream where you want your results submitted.
Stefan, can we pre-populate the Lava server? Because a lot of people always, or is it that we actually putting in tokens as well like that? Yeah, because maybe the initial value for Lava server should be the RPC2 of the server you're currently looking at, if we can.
You don't have to input tokens, so we can we can pre-populate the Lava server, but yeah.
I think that we should even not display that field at all. I mean, we have already discussed this sometimes, and it doesn't make any sense to submit the results to a different server than the one you are submitting the job to. So I think we should just use the current server without asking for input.
Yeah, I agree. 'Cause I think we had that discussion on, well, different servers can be running different databases, and you don't want to push data into a server that's running a different version of the database.
Okay, just to be able to add token or something like that. Then with the bundle stream.
Yeah.
But isn't doesn't the dispatcher insert the token based on the submission, the user that submitted the job? I don't think you need to explicitly add the token.
Yeah, this was copy pasted from the help job.
I think the token gets introduced by Lava server during when the job is being scheduled. The token is automatically being populated by Lava server by the scheduler.
Yeah, I think the right thing to do there is just to add the current Lava server and then don't even display that option to the user.
Okay. Okay, so what happens once you do everything actually redirected to the submit job page? The test definition is created from the options user selected, and the automatic validation of this JSON is performed. I decided to do it like this because I didn't want to double the validation and everything. So once you click the submit button now, you will do the server will do the regular validation as like you just pasted the job definition file.
Did you have a selection there for the login level as well, Stefan?
Sorry?
Yeah. So logging, he's asking, is there a way to set the logging level in the GUI?
Oh, no, I just hard-coded it for now.
Another thing too is device tags would be nice to have in there if you're going to add debug as well.
Okay. The main thing I wanted to discuss later in the design meeting is adding multiple test definitions and the problems I encountered while thinking about it. For now, we only support one.
Right. The other issue that will come up, particularly if you're having multiple test definitions, is the issue of timeouts. Which timeout applies to which section and all that kind of stuff. So that may get into an area where it's too advanced to start. Because are we aiming the GUI as the introduction, and then you base your development on editing the JSON itself? We're hopefully we're not thinking that the GUI is going to become the main interface for everyone, are we? It's not trying to be everything. It's meant to be a introductory level, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's, when people are trying to show how to create a new job, they don't have to remember how to write the entire JSON, right? They can find their way through the GUI and create, a simple job. But for the advanced user, probably go straight to existing JSON, right?
Yeah. So so the timeouts we can leave to default, possibly even the login level, because it's very handy for those introductory jobs to be in debug and to assert debug, because otherwise you miss out on information that might help you when you're trying to work out what's gone wrong. I'm wondering if debug should be the default and only CI jobs get info levels. or maybe not even then, because the workload that we get from test job failures is usually a case that this job has failed, and you have to go in, and if you hadn't been running debug, then you're losing a lot of information.
Well, what about debug by default, but then having a nice way of filtering it? We don't present the results, the log file, with debug on by default.
Yeah.
So you can just hit the tab, and then it displays all the debugs.
Yeah, that's a separate card. We'll have to put that in for next cycle.
Yeah, so hiding the debug information in the summary view is easy. You just clicking a button, you can just make that the default. But then on the full log view, we have to implement something to actually filter the log there.
Yeah.
So, question I had, Stefan, was what about memory? So, say I've submitted one job. If I go back to the GUI, does it remember my last session so that I don't have to reselect everything? I can just, I went to the wrong path. Or is it currently a new session every time you?
Not at this moment. Yeah, it's a new session every time.
Okay.
But I think the user browser is going to remember some of the values that were typed.
Drop-down box type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing I was thinking is maybe you should select the devices first, and then once you already have which device you want to submit to, maybe we could pre-populate a list of images that are known to have been submitted to those devices. Maybe that's going to help a little. I think that's going to be a lot more complicated than.
We'd have to exclude all the CI jobs and all the snapshot jobs, because a lot of those will have disappeared. But if you look at historical data, they won't be there to use again. So there's a fair bit of heuristic you'd have to put on that to work out which.
Yeah, or maybe that's just crazy talk from me.
Well, I mean, I wonder if we could just set it up like we had a config file that says, hey, you can go look here.
Yeah.
Like releases, and so it's like not everybody, like it ships, and you can configure to look at your own snapshot server, but we, in validation, look at releases and say, oh, you've got an ARM. Here's the latest version of Ubuntu or Open Embedded or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need some sort of protocol to discovering available images somehow.
Yeah, because I think that's huge, right? That first time a user uses Lava, they don't know. Yeah. So if we can point them to what we use, or what should at least get them a known build running.
Yeah, which is. So that comes down to a list of a list of images that we have sort of blessed, isn't it? It's a case of.
Yes. Yeah, and then you run into the problem of having people maintaining that list.
Yeah. And then you got to make sure you have backwards compatibility, because like the fast models, right? They change the firmware names, we have to update it, and we get compatibility for all the images. So if you can't boot a 1309 released image on fast models anymore.
So for now, I think, yeah.
That sounds like a rat trap.
Yeah. So can you walk through those 4 tabs again, Stefan? The only other thoughts I had was, like timeout. Timeout is something that confuses everybody.
Well,
so maybe some text to support that might be good.
Yeah, either like, I don't know, help text or something like that.
Yeah.
And then
for each field, actually, I kind of put some of the fields at random here, waiting for the input later. Like the timeout, I didn't know. I thought maybe I should hardcode this one. I mean, I don't see. I usually see the same out on all job definitions.
I think we need to fix the timeouts. The way that they're set up right now is absolutely nuts. It's going to be hard for you to put anything sensible around it. Basically, you've got what you're setting, I believe, is the job timeout. Right? But then there's
yeah.
And then what happens if your timeout, your per action timeout, is longer than your job timeout? Then it defaults to 24 hours. So we got weird stuff like that we need to just sort out and figure out what makes the most sense there.
Yeah, did it remember your options there? I guess in this one, maybe. Click on there, and does your browser pick up the last text you had in there?
When you go back, yeah, of course. But it didn't remember my previous selections.
Yeah.
From the list.
But if you click in the test definition path, will your browser have, oh, you recently used this text in this field?
Oh, probably.
I think it sometimes depends on whether the text boxes are post requests or JavaScript GET requests. Some browsers will store things much more easily if it's actually a HTML form than if it's a JavaScript entry. Depends on the browser support.
Well, these are all HTML.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if, I mean, I know if we were to do the feature in the lab, it would become a nightmare to link people back to, you know, the known good image or the known good boot, the known good artifacts. But I wonder if Lava, kind of as a product, should allow the administration individuals of the lab to have that option, right? Because I know that's one of the big requests here is that people want to be able to show their engineers how to use Lava. Should we let them decide whether or not they want to maintain a list of known? I don't know. I'd rather have it be something we used.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I really get anxious when we start to say, well, we can put these like hard-coded assumptions in there.
Yeah.
It'll be around and it'll work like this, because the more we do that, the more we just dig ourselves into a hole. Like the whole naming conventions in the fast model. As soon as we start tying ourselves to a particular name of a file, then we're getting into a lot of trouble keeping going forward.
You know, maybe this is something, Arthur, you know, with the way that Fujitsu's using Lava, maybe as this feature comes out, you can kind of see how or if they would use this feature for training engineers how to use it, or, you know, training other people or new people.
Yes, it's very cool to demonstrate how to use Lava.
Yeah.
Because always a lot of people confuse what is the test job is.
Cool. Okay.
I think device should come before boot image, though.
I agree. And then, do we want to have a way of setting a target? I mean, is that even something that we care about here? Probably not, huh?
Yeah.
No, a target isn't one of the. It's not one of the simple things people do. They just want a device.
Really? Yeah. I guess if I had to go in and type that into everything, it would make it harder.
Yeah. And that assumes that you know a little bit about Lava, how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, they just want an Arndale.
Yeah.
I do like the tags, though, so that people know. Well, no.
And that's more of an advanced feature, too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
The problem with tags is that you would have to go to the database on that particular instance and only allow the tags that are listed in that database.
Well, and only allow the tags that are active, right? Because if you show a bunch of tags that actually aren't assigned to any devices.
Yeah, so yeah, that's
Problems with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I think we should allow a text box, and then as they type a device, we should populate what are the available devices, some kind of autofill kind of things. Like basically, if I type a device name like say KVM hyphen or say I type K, and then it lists the device types. If they want, they can choose it, or something they want. Something like that.
well. So the device type box there is currently a drop-down box. You think that should be a combination box where you can edit, you can type in.
Yeah.
As well.
So I just say K, and it just gives me a list of don't know the exact name what to give for that kind of a UI. But if you type K, like it just lists all the device types or devices, which starts at K.
I think the hard thing with this wizard is going to be making sure that you don't end up with too many situations where someone can go through the wizard and then end up with a job that doesn't submit. I noticed, Stefan, you've got some validation and checks in that. Trying to actually do that for all possible routes through the wizard, I think that's one of the constraints that will mean we actually say, yes, this feature goes in or this feature doesn't. If we end up with a situation where it's too easy to create invalid jobs, then I think that's a way we can say, oh, that bit needs to be just assumed as a default.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically just client-side validations for like validity of URLs and stuff like that. But the main validation is actually done later in the job submit page. And you're right. You're right. I mean,
So
maybe
I think
we shouldn't leave the wizard before some deeper validation is performed, or we should at least allow user to come back if he see that something went.
Yeah, a back button would be handy, but also that that we test as many routes through the wizard as we can, that we don't end up with a situation where you just get a job that can't be submitted. And that I think is one good reason not to have tags in the wizard, because the tags would be all too easy to end up with a situation where you've got a submit to the wizard that is invalid and no particular way of easily telling the user how to fix it.
So what about if we get rid of the submit URL for the server, can we just pull the bundle streams and make that an autocomplete?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that should work.
I think that would be one other. Bundle streams, just the whole naming, and when we rename a bundle stream or we mark it private or public, it moves. And so that's been something that I've appreciated the autocomplete on.
What about on the bundle stream? We actually have a filter that says, do you want everybody to be able to see this result, or do you want it to be just a team? Is that too far? Or to be restrict the wizard to anonymous streams only, anonymous or public?
I think you should be able to submit it to anything you could see, right?
Yep.
Do we want to take this a step further? Because what's the next question they usually ask us is how do I submit a job and how do I create a bundle stream?
Yeah.
What if they could create a bundle stream, like an anonymous bundle stream from here?
If one doesn't exist for the user, you mean?
Yeah. That way, there's a lot of questions around that. Is that, okay, that's a job. Now I need a bundle created. I either need to deal with the Lava tool and get it set up, or I need to ask an administrator to set me up with a bundle stream.
So almost a link that says, you know, you have the link for existing bundles, or the box for existing bundle stream, but then a link that says create new bundle stream.
Yeah.
And the create will be a simple anonymous with your with the name as your username.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
can you create streams in the in the teams you belong to, like public streams?
You should be able to, right? Yep. We don't have any GUI feature to allow bundle creation.
No, not at this point.
No, it's all Lava tool at the moment.
Yeah, Lava tool or admin. Yeah, I think bundle stream creation is something we need to enable. I don't know if should we enable it in the wizard or just enable it from the My Jobs, My Bundles page.
Yeah, it would be nice to do it in both places, because the job submission wizard is where maybe the first time you use Lava, that's your interaction, right? So to be able to do it from there and not have to go somewhere else to do it is, I think, ideal. But I do think there is value in having it so you can go click a button to create a bundle stream. It'll take a lot more stress off the admins dealing with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, especially for a bundle stream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any other generals on the submission wizard, and we'll adjourn? Unless there's any other things that have come up. Remy, as you've been kind of bringing new engineers onto Lava, how do you think this will be something they use? Do you think they'll just use existing JSONs? What's your vibe there at ST?
I think it's a good addition to let users try, or at least you're trying simple cases with Lava. I think it's really good to test for testing. And for training also, I think.
Yeah.
So yes, it's really good addition. Sorry.
Yeah, it was funny when we put in the job submission box. There wasn't much of a demand, but it's one of the heavier used ways to submit jobs now.
Well, and I think Stefan's done it in a really clean way. It could have been done in a lot more horrible ways than that. I mean, that's probably the best thing I think we could have come up with, honestly. Just it's super simple and it's not intrusive and it's flexible still. I really had a lot of resentment about this feature, saying, learn how to use the JSON. We don't need a GUI to do this, but I think hit the mark there, and that looks really good.
It looks particularly good with the Bootstrap layout as well. It fits that very nicely. That's very nice.
All right, guys. If there's nothing else, I think we can adjourn for today, and then we'll see you guys in the design discussions.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye.